The Siberian Railway, the longest of 9,300 kilometers in the world. The train from Vladivostok, famous for Lake Baikal, heading to Moscow, the final destination. In this series, we will guide you the journey from Irkutsk to Moscow on the Trans-Siberian Baikal. Traveling by the world's longest railroad, the second story starts here at Irkutsk station. The train, Baikal, runs daily from the end of May through mid-September. Other than that, the Baikal departs basically on the even days. Needless to say, the train is named after Lake Baikal, always a blessed icon of Russians' mind. Irkutsk station plays an important role as the backbone of the Eastern culture in industrial cities. In the first series, we were on the route from Vladivostok to Irkutsk. The distance was about 4,000 kilometers. In the moving landscape, the encounters with the impressive cityscapes and people, with the nature of Irkutsk and Lake Baikal, gave us new impressions of the Russians. In this second series, from now on, I'll guide you through the scenic journey for about 5,000 kilometers from Irkutsk to the goal of the railway, Moscow. Old-fashioned styles and interiors of the Baikal would give us great expectations of how exciting the travel will be. Both crossing the Eurasian continent, this will be a bit different from the Russia. The train departed on time after smooth preparations. It will be a travel of 3 nights and 4 days on the Baikal. Heading slowly for the northwest, as the train goes, the season seems to be slightly changing with increasing temperature. The shooting took place in September. Before the winter, people get ready to enjoy the beautiful but short term of autumn season. Inside, the wood graining cabin, with 8 beds for both the first and the second-class sleeper cabins, with basically the same style. One more is the restaurant. Total of 17 cabins. The first-class sleeper car, a room for 2 people with beds face-to-face, with individually controlled air conditioning. The classic style, like the old European cinemas. The price is about $1,280 per person between Irkutsk and Moscow, but the fee may change depending on the rate and railway conditions. So, confirmation in advance is required. Various kinds of snacks, soft drinks, and water are provided. There you can feel the hospitality of the Trans-Sib. The second-class cabin based on white interior. Like the train Russia, the cabin of the Baikal has 2 bunk beds for 4 people. But the beds are more updated than the Russias. Actually, the second-class cabin is defined as the better condition. Let's say 1.5 class cabin. The price about $800 per person. The design inside is as good as the first class, so the second class is cost-effective. But the layout might be different according to when the cabins were constructed. The bathrooms and the washrooms on the better condition. They are new, well organized, and perfectly cleaned by the conductor. Samovar, the water heater, is provided in each cabin. The water is always kept to 100 centigrade. The trolley comes and goes between the first and second class, mainly in the morning, with the menu of Russian local foodies with a friendly smile. You can get piroshk with small coins.
Okay.
Спасибо. Кушайте на здоровье. Да не.
The restaurant car between the first and second class cabins is open from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Eating is one of the best pleasures in the long train travel. But besides lunch or dinner, the bar counters are always crowded with many passengers drinking vodka and beers. In the kitchen of the Baikal, only one head chef manages all the foods on the train. It's almost like a battlefield. Full variety of menus comparing to the Russia. With the kitchen shaking a lot, it requires the special techniques and good concentrations. Also, the chef needs to have smart plans and schedules in 4 days for stocking the materials.
Даже не знаю. Но вообще-то интересно, захватывает дорога. Сегодня здесь, завтра там, через неделю дома. Когда готовлю там. Ну, чтобы, естественно, было все готово, не сырое, чтобы было все вкусненько, чтобы было красиво. Ну, а так, техника безопасности у нас здесь еще, ну, специфическая такая, потому что трясет, качает, помещение маленькое, аккуратненько, чтобы не обжечься, не порезаться, ну, такой вот, чтобы держаться надо. Это не просто, когда нигде не трясет, а тут уже надо приспосабливаться, так скажем.
Fast, reasonable, and affectionate menu of the Baikal's dining restaurant. Beginning with 2 plates of appetizers to the main dishes. Baking with cheese on top is the typical Russian style. You can see that these plates are all given good balance of vegetables, meats, and fish.
We have got very good meals, different countries in Beijing, in Shanghai. No, not at all. We have sleep every night, very good.
We sleep, yes, we have no
And then we
troubles at
have a
all.
little bit vodka.
A little vodka that helps.
元気そうでいきます。
Russian.
The first night on the Baikal. Zima from Zima station means winter. There are so many shops inside Zima comparing to the other station, with a longer stop for 25 minutes. Some passengers run out to purchase enough groceries for the long travel. Some take a rest by breathing fresh air. Very typical and ordinary scene of the night for the Siberian. Since departing Irkutsk, it kept raining. As the second day on the Baikal, the 7th morning of the Trans-Sib will start from the Krasnoyarsk station. Old city with population of about 900,000, located in the middle of huge Yenisei River that flows into the Arctic Ocean. Many people coming and going. Huge amount of baggages up and down the stairs and to the platform. The information board is sometimes difficult to understand for foreigners. The conductor's signal is always reliable. Today, pretty cold with the rain. In ice-freezing winter also, people love the service of tea. We can get all warmed up now.
Then we travelled to Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, and then we came to Irkutsk, and then
some
to
days.
Moscow, and spent some days in Irkutsk on Lake Baikal.
Yeah, I guess the difference, because we have been on 3 different sorts of trains now. The one from Beijing to Ulaanbaatar, which obviously was a Chinese train, and it was very comfortable but more crowded, that train. And then to get from Ulaanbaatar to Irkutsk, and therefore there was lots of stops, very slow, but more interesting in some ways because you got to see more people, local people getting on and off the train with all of their bags and all of their food, and so that was interesting.
Mariinsk Station. Here, the electrification is changed from DC 3000 to AC 25,000 volts. Locomotive replacement will be done. While preparing for replacement, passengers browsing the marketplace of the platform, which is more promoting than ever. The shop sellers are the housewives around the station. Special handmade dishes and local specialties attract the travelers. Some of them are smashing. We'll introduce you the unique lunchtime of the Baikal. First, lunch of the better condition. The lunch boxes brought to each compartment by the crews are handed over to the conductor. Even when absent, the conductor opens the key and delivers it to finish all the routines in time. The requested menu is set in the first class, not a lunchbox. The dining crew in charge carefully delivers one by one to each compartment. The price for lunch is the same, both at the restaurant or on delivery. You can't have the better condition lunchboxes delivered on the first class, but both places are enjoyable. The weather seems not to be getting better. At Novosibirsk station, unbelievable in September, but it finally reached 0 centigrade at local time 9 p.m. Snowing. A moment to feel the land of the Siberian again. Siberia's largest city, located near the beautiful Obi River, cannot conflict the cold weather. Still, the train Baikal strongly keeps running forward throughout the night. After the long and slow dawn of Siberia, the complete sunrise at 10 a.m. The conductor starts cleaning. It's just an ordinary scene, but after the rain went up, the compartment in the fresh morning light is very impressive. Tyumen Station. The distance to Moscow approaches 2,000 kilometers. Tyumen area has increasing population with multiples of rich oil and gas fields supporting the energy industry. Sverdlovsk Station. This town, renamed back to Ekaterinburg now, used to be the starting point of the Siberian Railroad. Also known as the land of the end of the Romanov dynasty. Here, the travel of the Siberian Railway will come to a climax.
Еще я вам не сказала интересный момент, когда будем проезжать мы в город Екатеринбург. После Екатеринбурга с левой стороны находится столб, который разделяет Европу и Азию на две половины. Материк Евразию на две части.
Around 1,777 kilometers from Moscow, you can see Marble Obelisk. East from here is Asia, west is Europe. With the engraved letters, I realized the tremendous scale of Eurasian continent. The journey gives us a triumph of the passion of the world. Before boarding, we couldn't imagine how long this trip would be. But tonight is finally the last dinner on the train. Unique menu mixed with foods of local Baikal. Starting with raw fish and then stroganoff-like meat dishes called the stew of several kinds. Meals with average of $9 per person. Almost time to say farewell to the Siberian Railway gourmets. Counting the nights, putting hands over to the sunrise shower, every scene we could share inside the train, touched by the friendliness of people, sometimes spending the sleepless nights. Only 9 days on board, but the memories remain forever in the traveler's mind. With accurate rhythm of the rails and the controlled work of the conductor, the travelers recognize that now is the time of the precious moments. The last night on the Siberian Railroad, Perm 2 with travelers drinking a little more than usual. Located in the western side of the Ural Mountains with population of 1.1 million people. Finally, there's no time difference between Moscow. The Baikal seems very foggy for the first time since departure. Gorky Station on the last day, leaving 300 kilometers to go. Finally, there is no time difference between Moscow. You can feel that you're approaching the urban town by finding the newspapers and magazines being sold. Two more stations to Moscow. On the train Baikal, what's so bright about trains was encountering with people supporting the passengers' journey. Travel cannot exist without people. Maybe it's always the same in any era, any country. After the last stop, you can feel the air slightly changing with the buildings and cars running in parallel. Only 3 hours to Moscow. Compared to the distance of the high-speed train from Tokyo to Osaka in Japan, you might feel this a lot shorter. Finally, arrived at Moscow station. First day at Vladivostok, fourth at Irkutsk, the 9th day at Moscow. The journey will finally reach a goal after 9,300 kilometers. Moscow is the capital of all Russia. The landscape before our eyes is more urban-like than ever. After spending 9 days from the far east of Russia, the city seems somewhat fresh and retrospective. Yaroslavly Station, commonly known as Moscow Station, is located in the northeast of Moscow with Kremlin on its center. Easy to connect to the outer city with about 20 minutes of driving. First of all, let me introduce you some features of Moscow, the big city with population of 10 million people. The area of Moscow is about 1,000 square kilometers. Connecting Europe and Asia, it's a city of politics, finance, economy, and developing industries and labor force. Historical and cultural buildings were first constructed in the old 15th century, having great prosperity by being one of the most vertical and three-dimensional cities in the world. Red Square, surrounded by the red walls in the northeast of Kremlin, and the brick-made National Historical Museum, St. Basil's Cathedral, the onion-shaped dome, the area of 73,000 square meters. It's called as Krasnaya Plощадь in Russian. Krasnaya stands for beautiful, so this place is a beautiful square. In such a beautiful place, there are always many tourists from all over the world. The piles of the Red Square is about 4 meters, which is said to have accumulated 1 meter by every century. Now being compacted with stone pavement, various historical people left the footprints here. It's been the stage of the change of Russian society. Only about 20 years ago, Kremlin was the center of superpowered Soviet politics, bisecting the world with the United States. The historical authorities reigned here and left various buildings and heritage. Now updating with major presence as a sightseeing spot. Visiting inside of the Kremlin is one of the interests in Moscow. Tverskaya Street, the main street which leads to the northwest about 3 kilometers from the northern end of Kremlin, the largest symbol of Moscow. Huge sprawling city with everything that Russia has to offer: history, culture, and fashion. The Manege Square by Kremlin was called the square of the 50th anniversary of the October Revolution, connecting the former government and the downtown area. The statue of the Saint George riding on the horse is set on the pedestal resembling the earth. In the daytime, you can relax under the sun. After sunset, it becomes crowded by young people as a hot spot. Located between the Manege Square and the Kremlin city walls, next to the Lenin Mausoleum, with rows of visitors, is the Alexandrovsky Park with beautiful trees. This is not only one of the tourist attractions, but also a place to loosen up for the Moscovich, local people in Moscow, with its beautiful atmosphere. Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is a monumental cemetery of people who lost their lives in the World War II. It is set with fire that would not go out forever. It is customary for newlyweds to take photos with the tomb of the unknown soldier. After enjoying the center spots of Moscow, we recommend that you heal your body with the long railway travel. Here, we will recommend you the legendary 5-star hotel in Moscow, the city with history of longer than a century. The Metropole Hotel has towers, round roofs, balconies, etc. in Art Nouveau style, making it look rich and gorgeous. It was designed by British architect Walcott, and the construction completed in 1903. Located at a few hundreds of meters from the northeast of the Red Square, great size of the strokes from the main entrance and the lobby. The aisle crossing the entrance to the elevator hall is formed by classical interior and decoration, which is not necessary to be easily updated. The romantic style of the floor and the ceiling is penetratingly awesome. You will be slowly guided to the room with the surrounding interiors based on luxurious grain. Because of its history and unparalleled service, the Metropole Hotel has been widely used as accommodation among world leaders. Four floors with 403 rooms. There are 3 types of rooms. The woody, spacious rooms designed with aesthetics and styles. The deluxe room at around $1,600 per night. 2 large bedrooms and 1 living room with an elegant design, surrounded by chandeliers and antique furnitures. Considering it as a suite room, it is more than reasonable with the sense of luxury and relaxation. The suite room with 1 bedroom and living room is very popular among the new married couples, with about $800 per night. Standard class is a room that we want to try someday because we can taste the same quality as the suite as usual hotel rates. On the first night in Moscow, the lights and the liveliness of the city might make you start missing the rooms of the train. Coming up is the Russian-style dinner popular around the Kremlins. Restaurant Guronov, from the entrance at the back of the Metropole Hotel to the interior and the waiters' uniforms, is a Russian restaurant with colors and maximum retain of the antique style that just popped out of a fairy tale. Not only the tourists visiting for the local cuisine, but also very familiar among Moscovich. You feel that they love this place so much by their lively voices toasting with vodka. The heating machine called pechka, and remember the samovar from the train? Things decorated with impeccable ornaments make us uneasy to forget. Beginning with fruit juice made from berries called bols, to the main Russian cuisine such as piroshki, borscht, and beef stroganoff. If we may call it, it's the more luxurious version of Siberian railway gourmets. However, the price is nice and cheap. These tastes of foods are bold and rich. It is definitely a good restaurant for you to experience the Russian cuisine. Later, around 11 o'clock in the evening, here in Manege Square, young 20s gather, laugh, drink alcohol without any hesitation just by the historical buildings. They will enjoy the time without end. For people of the Western countries, with only 20 years after democratizing, the image of Russia has the impression the young culture is still immature and growing. But once they see the party, such images disappear in a blink of time. To make an example, if this was Washington, D.C., it's just like a hamburger shop opening inside the White House. If London, having a party in the Westminster district, the scene at the square is quite interesting. The night in Moscow continues to change. Moscow's tourist attractions are also scattered in many places away from the central city. People take a break before the statue of Lenin, which is seen everywhere in Russia. Arbat Street is the young people's favorite pedestrian zone. About 1 kilometer from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to Arbat Square. The street is about 20 meters wide. The cafes, souvenir shops, and all kinds of variety stores are all lined up. The beautiful buildings from the 18th to the 19th century have built with equal intervals. The landscape shows the excellent urban plans of the Russian government. A perfect place for tourists to look for the souvenirs. They can take their time and check the Russian products as deeply as they can. The well-known self-portrait drawing is about $10, depending on the negotiations. In addition, you can meet varieties of street performers. If you go there, the weekend after 3 p.m. is recommendable. Best time of hustle and bustle on Arbat Road. The Cathedral of Christ the Savior was blown by the religious oppression by Stalin in 1931. But reconstruction began in 1995 and the altar was completed in the year of 1999. Kroshka Kartoshka is a popular stall-type shop of fast food, familiar in Moscow. A popular gourmet menu that combines 2 potatoes and many toppings, creating the best combination. How about enjoying a brunch or a spot of lunch besides the largest cathedral in Russia? Best spots of higher places that you can overlook the metropolis, Moscow. Moscow University, known as the name of MGU, is like the Harvard or the Oxford University in short. Within the campus, there are cafeterias, beauty salons, the grocery stores, pharmacies, and boutiques. As an observatory of Moscow, here is Baravilby Hill, spreading on the straight line of the University of Moscow. The newlyweds give flowers at the tomb of the unknown warriors after registering for marriage. It is a standard to take the commemorative photo here. Many souvenir shops are open. distance of 9,297 kilometers, 11 days, 10 nights. Starting from the stations of Far East to the capital, Moscow, the distance and time spent across the continent. The journey of a railroad cannot be told by just the distance. On the other hand, the length of the distance can be converted to the history of diligence and everyday livings, the history itself with the backgrounds. For the travelers, the distance will become as an irreplaceable relationship with the country. Russia is still in evolution, together with us.